Hey vinyl friends and vinyl community, it's Brian from Brian's Vinyl Records, and I'm here to talk about a subject that I think is exciting for vinyl collectors, and that is the search for the Holy Grail, right? What the Holy Grail is? Well, it's the albums you really want, but they're either one, hard to find, or two, expensive as hell. So let's talk about Holy Grails on a budget, and we'll talk right after this. All right, welcome back. So, like I said, everybody who is a vinyl collector or a vinyl record buyer has those albums that they really would like to add to their collection, but one, they haven't been repressed, or you don't collect repressings, or two, they're just very hard to find anywhere, or three, they were limited pressings done in the first place, so usually you can only find them overseas, or four, they're super expensive when they are found. So what do you do when you have a budget? And what I mean by that is, for me, it may look like I spend a ton of money on records based on what I show you in my vinyl editions, but the truth of the matter is I have a budget and I keep within that budget, and I don't usually spend a whole lot of money on the vinyl that I show you. Many of the items that I get are $5 and under, maybe up to $6 or $7. The new albums I get, I look for a deal. Pre-ordering through Amazon is a good way to do certain things, because a lot of times when you pre-order it, the price drops throughout the months as they do some sort of sales. And I don't know how Amazon's algorithm works, but a lot of times I don't pay full price. There are definitely certain albums that I will go to my local store to buy, though, and I think that's very important. I want to support my local record stores as much as I can. So there are certain things like that where I know it is going to be worth my time, and a lot of that depends on the album, of course, as well. And what I mean by that is sometimes the albums that you pre-order, you know there's going to be a high demand for. And so when I know there's going to be a high demand in my area, I don't expect my local record store to carry a ton of copies of that album. And in that case, I'll typically order it off of Amazon, so I know I'll be getting a copy at some point. And then on the albums that I know are going to be wide released, which are most of them, I'll go to my local record store and pick it up, because honestly, with local record store discount programs and VIP memberships and things like that, you can get around the same price as you would get on Amazon anyway, and I'd much rather spend my money there. That being said, the topic today is Holy Grails, and my take on it is Holy Grails on a budget. So I have a budget of what I'm willing to spend on albums, and my typical album budget is no more than $35. $35 is a lot of money to me, but it may not sound like much when you're searching for a Holy Grail that could cost somewhere around $100, $200, $300 to purchase. I'm not interested in that, right? If I have it on CD, that's going to be good enough for me. I don't need to spend $100 just to have the vinyl record. I would love to have it, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money to get it. I'm going to sit back, wait, and hope that there's a repress. And when I show you later on some of the grails I really want that are out of range right now, there's a couple that are going to get some represses soon, and I'm really excited about. But let's talk about what I do have, because what I do have is very exciting. So, as I mentioned, my budget for grails, or for any record in particular, is right around $35. There are definitely exceptions to that rule, and one of them I will show you in here was an exception, and I spent $42 on. So I didn't go way above my budget on that, but I decided to go above it because I wanted the album so much. So let's get into some of these albums. This first one, and a lot of these are going to be personal grails to me. It doesn't mean the albums are super expensive or anything like that, but this first one is one of those. This is Ozzy Osbourne's No Rest for the Wicked. I'm a huge Ozzy fan. I got into Ozzy right around the No More Tears time, which is another grail I'd love to get, and I'm really hoping with the announcement that he's releasing all of his albums in a big box set that individually those later albums will start to come out too, because I'd love to own No More Tears, but I am definitely not willing to spend the $100 and more to pick up a copy. So this is one that is sometimes really difficult to find, and I came across this on Discogs one day and I bought it, and then found out from the person that they had sold it in the store already. And actually what they ended up doing was they put the wrong album up, told me that they had the copy of Diary of a Madman instead. I already have 2 copies of Diary of a Madman, one that I gave away, but I really wanted this one, so I told them no, I don't want that, and canceled that order. So a couple months later, this popped up online, and I saw it, and I said, I need to get this album. So I found it. I ended up paying, I think, $20 for it, which is, quite a good chunk of change for a used vinyl record. It's in pretty good shape. The cover has some bends, which, I don't play the cover, so I really don't mind. And the album itself is, fairly decent shape. It cleans up really well, and it plays nicely enough. And so I was able to pull in this one. This is a personal grail of mine, so No Rest for the Wicked. I think I got a pretty good deal on it. I see them online, and some people are asking like $100 for a copy of this, and that, to me, that's ridiculous. I do also see them for around $30 or $35, $40. Once in a while, they do pop up for around the $20 range, and sometimes you might even find it for even less. So it's just a matter of finding it. That's the problem. All right, so I mentioned that I went over my budget, once before, and it was for an album that it meant a lot to me because I saw these guys in concert. They opened for a band I went to see, was really excited to see them. They opened, I was blown away, went out immediately and bought the CD the next day, and it's been one of my favorite albums. And finding it on vinyl at one point was around a $175 to $250 endeavor. So I was resigned to the fact that I probably would never own this album on vinyl. Well, then Record Store Day came, and it was announced that this was going to be released as a special 3 LP set with some extras on it. I knew I had to have it. I saw the price. It was priced at around $45, and that was, a lot. However, my local record store had it for $42, and plus I got a discount for being a member there. So in the end, I probably ended up spending around $38, $39 on it. So not too far over my budget, but I'm super excited and happy to have this. This is Type O Negative's Bloody Kisses album. I saw them on the 1994 Motley Crue tour. They opened for them. I had never heard of them before, but from the instant they hit the stage and the opening chords ran and till the very end of their set, I was just absolutely blown away by them and had to see what their album was all about. And this is the one they were touring on, and it's absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to also say that they're releasing all of their Roadrunner albums on vinyl in about probably just over a week from now, and I've pre-ordered that. I'm super excited to have their albums. It'll have another copy of this, which is fine, but it'll also have October Rust, which is a huge want of mine, and everything else. So I'm really excited about that. So this one was one of my expensive grails. This next one I found on an online auction that I'm part of, where the seller somehow finds all these very hard to find albums, metal albums, that he then auctions off on the site. And it's really a first come, first serve, and I was lucky enough to be able to be the first to claim this one during the show. But this is Warrant, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinky, Rich. This isn't a super uber expensive album to find. It's just really hard to find at times, and when you do, people want sometimes ridiculous money for it. This one, it has a cover that's in VG shape. It's not the greatest, but again, I don't play the covers, and the album itself is probably a VG as well, but it cleans up okay and gets rid of a lot of the scratchy noises that it was making when I first got it. And once the music plays, you don't hear a lot of that static and scratching that you hear in the dead spots. And so to me, to just have this on vinyl, it was worth the price I paid. I think I only had to pay like $15 for this one, because he devalued the shape of the cover and the vinyl and VG shape itself, he lowered the cost of something like this. Normally, I think I would probably have to pay around $25 to $30 to $35 for it. So very excited to have that as well. All right, this next one's a newer one. I believe I showed this in my latest video. This is a soundtrack that I didn't know I'd ever find, but it was re-released, I think, a couple years back, 2016. And I was excited to get this, Demon Knight. It has one of my favorite Megadeth songs, Diadems, on it, which I absolutely love. And it's just got some real great metal soundtrack songs on here. So I was super excited to pull this one down. It only cost me $24, brand new sealed, on this really cool green vinyl in here, which I really dig. So happy to have that. Also, the next one here is another one that I recently picked up and showed on a recent editions album. This was my holy grail that I found recently, is Van Halen for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. This one is, you know, a little rougher shape. The cover is definitely rough, real rough shape here. And the album itself, it plays really well, but it does have a little warp on the lip, which means I can't play it on my Orthophone Blue turntable, but I'm able to play it in my office with no problems. It handles that little lip without any issue, so I'm happy about that. It sounds really good. It's a Brazilian press, so the levels are a little lower. I've found that most of the South American pressings, the levels seem to be a little lower, so I have to turn it up a little bit more. But when you do turn it up a little more, it sounds great. So happy and just overjoyed to have this. This one I think you can find online for around $55, $60, $70 used. Again, if it's in the States, it's going to cost you a little bit more because most of them are found overseas. All right, this one just arrived, and I'm super excited about this because, you know, back in, must have been middle school, I really started to enjoy listening to this band. And then I think in high school, when I had already started driving, they put out their third album called 3, and I really, really loved that album. And I went and met them at a meet and greet at a local Best Buy before a concert that they were doing that night, which I also went to. And I was able to get a signed copy of my CD of this album, which is really cool. I still have that out in my CD collection, autographed by the band. And just one of my favorite bands in middle school and high school. And I'm talking about Firehouse. And this is their second album. Hold Your Fire is the name of it. And I just got this. This is in practically brand new shape, barely touched. Album's in great shape. This is a South Korean pressing of the album, which is, you know, it's hard to find any pressings of this locally. So a lot of people have to go there. It's really cool. It has the Korean insert with the English lyric sheet on the back, so that's kind of neat. But this is great. I'm super pumped that this came through, and this right here is the most expensive album I've ever purchased. After contemplating what to do with this, I decided to go ahead and pay $50 for this album. That's $15 over my normal max budget, which was a big stretch for me, but I decided that I really wanted to have this, so I pulled the trigger. Now, if I can find the first album, I'll be even happier. But very happy to have this album, and I think my $50 is well paid. You can get copies of this from Korea, again, but it's going to cost you about $25 to $30 for the album and another $20 to ship it. So in the end, I think I came out ahead because this came from inside the States, and I'm very happy to have this. All right, now we're down to 2 of my top grails that I was able to get, and I'm super, super pumped about. The first one is Skid Row's second album, Slave to the Grind. A definite holy grail of mine. This one I purchased from Korea and actually had it shipped from Korea. It's a used copy. It's you know, the cover is not in the greatest shape, but the album is in great shape. Plays awesome, and super pumped to have this album. This is South Korean pressing again as well. I believe that it has the insert, which is also English and Korean, so that's kind of cool. Very fun to have. Again, this one I paid only $20 for, and it only cost me $3 to ship from Korea, and it was tracked, which is amazing. It took probably 3 weeks to get here from Korea, but I was able to see the progress the whole time, And I saw when it was in customs and how long it took to get out of customs. So happy to have this, super pumped, and I got it for a pretty penny because this isn't a cheap album to find, especially here in the States. And last but not least, which was probably my number one grail going into this, well, probably actually my number two grail, my number one grail I'll get to in a second. This is probably my number two grail, and this one I had to go to Venezuela to get. And again, like I said, with the South American pressings, the levels are a little lower on the albums, and they come in these cheaper covers, but it sounds amazing when you just turn it up. It's not much; it's only like a few ticks on the dial to get it to the noise level that another album is. But super excited about this. This is in excellent shape, and this is Poison Native Tongue, my favorite Poison album. And I know that's weird for a lot of people. I love all the stuff that CeCe did with the band, but this is, with Richie Kotzen on guitar, my favorite Poison album. I just love the bluesiness of it, the great guitars in it, everything else. So super pumped I found this. This one I paid $17 for. I added, I think, 3 other albums. I think I bought Billy Joel Stormfront, and I bought Vanilla Ice to the Extreme, and I bought Dirty Dancing soundtrack along with this one to spread the shipping out. The shipping was going to cost me, I think it was $10 more, I think, to ship. But when I added the other pieces in, it kind of averaged it out. So in all, I think I paid $19 for a copy of this, which is insane because I have never seen it lower than $40 anywhere. So to get this for about $19 is a steal. So super pumped. So those are the grails that I currently have. There are a lot of grails that I really want. So let me tell you a few of them. The number one grail on my Holy Grail list is 1994's Motley Crue album. It's my favorite Motley Crue album, without a doubt. I saw them on this tour. John Corabi is one of my favorite vocalists. He blew away my expectations when I saw him doing all the classic Crue stuff. Absolutely loved it. Was devastated when I learned that he had been removed from the band and Vince Neil had rejoined for Generation Swine in 1997. I was looking so forward to what was supposed to become their second album, and it just wasn't meant to be, apparently. So that is my number one grail want. Number two on the list is Black Sabbath's Dehumanizer album, and I have excellent news on this. This album, the Motley Crue album, goes for around $200 to $250 used minimum. So that one I will probably never have because Vince Neil and Nikki Sixx have decided that it's not worth anyone's time anymore, and they will never probably allow it to be reissued on vinyl, which is really sad. I think it is kind of petty on their part. However, Black Sabbath's Dehumanizer, an album that Dio did, I really thought we were never going to see a reissue of this because Sharon and Ozzy tend to frown upon any of the years that Black Sabbath existed without Ozzy in it. In fact, you see that with them reissuing tons of different configurations of the Black Sabbath catalog when Ozzy was in it back in the 70s. Great, everyone has that. I don't know why we have to have another collection of them, but that's what they do. Let's issue some of these other ones, and I'm happy to announce that Rocktober, put on by Rhino Records, they're reissuing Dehumanizer this October. I'm super pumped. I need to make sure I get a copy of that because this is one of my top grails. I got this album from Columbia House back in the day on CD. I loved the album, so I'm super pumped that it's coming out again, and I can cross it off my Holy Grail list. Very excited for that. You have no idea. The other album I want to mention that is a grail of mine, and many people may not know this album, but it's Steelheart's Tangled in Rains album. Now, there are 2 pressings that have ever been done of this album, German pressing and South Korean pressing. And what makes this one a really hard to obtain grail for me is that I need the German pressing. So why do I need the German pressing? Well, in South Korea, they have a whole bunch of rules about censoring albums and things like that. And a lot of times what you'll find is certain songs are missing from albums, or there's a different track list or things like that. And that's the case on this album with the South Korean version. The South Korean version only has approximately half of the Tangled and Reigns albums, and the rest of it is replaced by live tracks from the first album. I don't need that, and I don't want that. The German pressing is the full, complete Tangled and Reigns album. It's one of my favorite albums from high school. I was a big Steelheart fan after they released their first self-titled album. It had the song "I'll Never Let You Go" on it. Can't Stop Me From Loving You. It's a great album, but when they put out that second one, Sticky Side Up, Electric Love Child, that was my jam. All My Love, Mama Don't You Cry. It's just a fantastic album. And so it's up there. It's probably my number 3 Grail. Actually, now it'll be my number 2 because Dehumanizer's coming. So I've almost purchased a used copy from Europe a couple times. I hate not knowing when it's going to arrive, and I love tracking. I'm a spoiled person. I love to track my progress on things, and it's real hard for me to pay the shipping prices that come with international shipping. But someday I'll probably just have to bite the bullet and spend the money to get it. We'll have to see. But anyway, there you go. That's my Grails on a budget. As I said, I try to stick to that $35 range and under to get my Grails, which makes it almost impossible to get some of the Grails I have. If you want to check out what other Grails I have, you can check out my Discogs page. Just do Discogs and search for Brian's Vinyl Records on there, and you'll see in my want list, I think I have a top 10 list on there that you can look at and see what my Grails are in there. So check that out if you so desire. But either way, I'm super excited that the Grails I do have. I'll continue hunting for Grails that are on my list, and hopefully someday there'll be some reissues, because I'm not above a reissue. I don't need original pressing. It's fine to have a reissue as long as it sounds good. Hopefully, or I'll find one in the wild where it's not insanely overpriced. So there you go. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this special episode on Holy Grails and Holy Grails on a budget, and I hope you enjoyed this. So if you did, please leave a comment. If you give it a thumbs up, I'd appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Love to have you around. As a reminder, I am running a 100 subs contest that will end at the end of this month, September 30th. If you would like to get in, please submit your video. Check out the contest rules. I'll put a link up here to get to the contest. Check that out, and would be happy if you submitted for that. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, keep spinning, vinyl friends.